Pleasant day to each and everyone. I am Ruela Tagal, and along with Princess Orhaina Uto and Aldin Pangandayan, we will discuss Karen Horney's psychoanalytic social theory. So let's start. Karen Horney's psychoanalytic social theory centers on the idea that our personalities are largely shaped by our social and cultural experiences, especially those from childhood. So, think about your own upbringing. Did you feel loved, secure, and understood, or did you experience neglect, conflict, and a lack of affection? Horney believed these early experiences are incredibly important in forming who we become. If a child's need for love and affection aren't met, they might develop what Horney called basic hostility. So this is not necessarily conscious anger, but a deep-seated resentment towards their parents. This in turn can lead to basic anxiety, a pervasive feeling of insecurity and vulnerability, a sense of being alone and helpless in a hostile world. To cope up with this basic anxiety, Horney suggested we develop one of three main strategies in our relationships. We might move against people seeking love and approval. We might move against people trying to dominate and control them, or we might move away from people withdrawing to avoid potential hurt. While normal individuals might use all three strategies flexibly depending on the situation, neurotics tend to rigidly stick to just one. This becomes a compulsive pattern, creating internal conflict and preventing healthy adaptation. This rigid coping mechanism can lead to an internal conflict manifested in two ways. An idealized self-image, where the individual creates a false, perfect image of themselves to compensate for feelings of inadequacy, or self-hatred, where hostility is turned inward, resulting in self-contempt or alienation. The idealized self might show up as a neurotic need to or for glory, excessive demands, or neurotic pride. Self-hatred might manifest as self-contempt or feeling alienated from the self. Although Horney primarily focused on neurotic personalities, her ideas are applicable to everyone. Understanding these coping mechanisms can help us better understand our own behavior and the behavior of others. It's important to remember that Horney's theories were deeply personal, shaped by her own life experiences and her work with patients. This personal connection gave her work a unique depth and understanding. Her theory offers a valuable framework for understanding the lasting impact of early childhood experiences and social factors on our personality development and relationships. Now, let's talk about Horney's biography. Karen Danielsen Horney was born in Aibich, a small town near Hamburg, Germany, on September 15, 1885. She was the only daughter of Bernd Danielsen, a sea captain, and Clothilde van Ronselen Danielsen, a woman nearly 18 years younger than her husband. Now, the only other child of this marriage was a son about 4 years older than Karen. However, the old sea captain had been married earlier and had 4 other children, most of whom were already adults by the time. The Danielsen family was an unhappy one, in part because Karen's older half-siblings turned their father against his second wife. Karen felt great hostility towards her stern, devoutly religious father and regarded him as a religious hypocrite. However, she idolized her mother, who both supported and protected her against the stern old sea captain. Nevertheless, Karen was not a happy child. She resented the favored treatment given to her older brother, and in addition, she was worried about the bitterness and discord between her parents. Now, as a teenager, she suffered her first episode of depression, a challenge that she faced several times throughout her life. When she was 13, Horney decided to become a physician, but at that time, no university in Germany admitted women. So by the time she was 16, the situation had actually changed. So over the objections of her father, who wanted her to stay home and take care of the household, she entered the gymnasium, a school that would lead to a university and then to medical school. Now on her own for the first time, Karen dreamed to remain independent for the rest of her life. But according to Paris, Horney's independence was mostly superficial. On a deeper level, she retained a compulsive need to merge with a great man. This morbid dependency, which typically included idealization and fear of inciting angry rejections, haunted Horney during her relationships with a series of men. And in 1906, she entered the University of Freiburg, becoming one of the first women in Germany to study medicine. There she met Oskar Horney, a political science student, and their relationship began as a friendship, but it eventually became a romantic one. After their marriage in 1909, the couple settled in Berlin, where Oskar, now with a PhD, worked for a coal company, and Karen, not yet with an MD, specialized in psychiatry. The early years of her marriage were filled with many notable experiences for Horney. Her father and mother, who were now separated, died within less than a year of each other. She gave birth to 3 daughters in 5 years, and she received her MD degree in 1915 after 5 years of psychoanalysis. And in her quest for the right man, she had several love affairs. After World War I, the Horneys lived a prosperous suburban lifestyle with several servants and chauffeurs. Oscar did well financially while Karen enjoyed a thriving psychoanalytic practice or psychiatric practice. This idyllic scene, however, soon ended when the inflation and economic discord of 1923 cost Oscar his job, and the family was forced to move back to an apartment in Berlin. In 1926, Karen and Oscar separated but did not officially divorce until 1933. In 1938, that is, the only years following her separation from Oscar were the most productive of Horney's life. In addition to seeing patients and caring for 3 daughters, she became more involved with writing, teaching, traveling, and lecturing. Her papers now showed important differences with Freudian theory. She believed that culture, not anatomy, was responsible for psychic differences between men and women. When Freud reacted negatively to Horney's position, she became even more outspoken in her opposition. In 1932, Horney left Germany for a position as associate director for the new established Chicago Psychoanalytic Institute. In 1932, Horney left Germany for that position. After 2 years in Chicago, Horney moved to New York, where she taught at the New School of Social Research. Moreover, in her book, New Ways in Psychoanalysis, she called for abandoning the instinct theory and placing more emphasis on ego and social influences. In 1952, Horney established the Karen Horney Clinic. In 1950, Horney published her most important work, The Neurosis and Human Growth. This book set of 4 theories that were no longer merely a reaction to Freud, but rather were an expression on her own creative and independent thinking. And after a short illness, Horney died of cancer on December 4, 1952, when she was 65 years old. Now that we have talked about Horney's biography, let's now move on to the introduction of psychoanalytic social theory. So, the early writings of Karen Horney, like those of Adler, Jung, and Klein, have a distinctive Freudian flavor. Like Adler and Jung, she eventually became disenchanted with orthodox psychoanalysis and constructed a revisionist theory that reflected her own personal experiences, clinical and otherwise. Although Horney wrote nearly exclusively about neurosis and neurotic personalities, her work suggests much that is appropriate to normal, healthy development, as I said earlier. Culture, especially early childhood experiences, play a leading role in shaping human personality, either neurotic or healthy. Horney then agreed with Freud that early childhood traumas are important, but she differed from him in her insistence that social rather than biological forces are paramount in personality development. Horney had several major disagreements with Freud. Firstly, she argued that sticking too rigidly to Freud's original ideas or the orthodox psychoanalysis would stifle progress in both theory and therapy. So it was like saying we need to keep moving forward, not just repeat the same things. Secondly, Horney strongly disagreed with Freud's views on feminine psychology, a topic we'll explore later. She felt his ideas were biased and didn't actually reflect women's experiences. Thirdly, and most importantly, Horney believed that psychoanalysis need to move beyond Freud's emphasis on biological instincts. She argued that cultural influences were much more important in shaping personality. She famously stated that humans are driven not only by the pleasure principle, but also by the need for safety and satisfaction. She believed that neurosis or mental health issues arise not from our instincts but from our attempts to navigate a world filled with societal dangers and anxieties. The wilderness is created by society, not by our biology or inherent drives. But despite her criticisms, Horney acknowledged Freud's valuable insights. Her main issue wasn't with Freud's observations themselves, but with his interpretations of those observations. She felt that Freud's explanation led to a pessimistic view of humanity, one that emphasized innate, unchanging instincts and a stagnant personality. Horney, in contrast, offered a more optimistic perspective, emphasizing the power of cultural forces and the potential for change and growth. She believed that because cultural forces are changeable, we have the potential to create a more supportive and less anxiety-provoking world. This would, in turn, lead to healthier personalities. So with that, she shifted the focus from an inherent human negativity to a potential for positive development through societal change. Now let's move on to the impact of culture. Karen Horney believed that while genetics play a role, culture is a primary force shaping personality, both healthy and unhealthy. She argued that modern Western culture in particular fosters a highly competitive environment where everyone is seen as a potential rival. This constant competition breeds hostility and isolation, making people feel alone and vulnerable in a potential hostile world. This feeling of isolation intensifies the need for love and affection. People start to believe that love is the solution to all their problems. While genuine love is healthy, a desperate need for love, like the kind born out of insecurity and fear, can actually be harmful. it can create a vicious cycle. The need for love leads to unhealthy attempts to get it, which then lowers self-esteem, increases hostility, intensifies basic anxiety, and fuels even more competition and need for love. So, Horney identified several ways that Western society contributes to this cycle. First is society teaches humility and kindness, but simultaneously promotes aggression and the pursuit of superiority, which this creates internal conflict. Second is the pressure to achieve success is relentless. Even when goals are met, new ones are immediately set, leaving people constantly striving and never truly feeling satisfied. And the third one is people are told they can achieve anything through hard work, but this isn't true for everyone. Genetics, social class, and competition limit people's opportunities. This creates a disconnect between the ideal and reality, leading to frustration and anxiety. Now, these contradictions, stemming from cultural pressures rather than biology, create internal conflicts that threaten the mental well-being of everyone, but particularly those already struggling with neurosis. These conflicts become nearly impossible to overcome for those with neurotic tendencies, trapping them in a cycle of self-defeating behaviors. With that, Horney argued that society itself creates many of the problems that lead to mental health challenges. Then we also have the importance of childhood experiences. Horney believed that while problems can emerge at any age, most neurotic conflicts originate in childhood. Traumatic events like abuse or neglect certainly leave their mark, but Horney emphasized that the lack of genuine warmth and affection is almost always at the root of these problems. Her own difficult relationship with her father likely influenced her thinking here. She argued that a difficult childhood leads to neurotic needs, exaggerating needs for things like love or power, because these needs become the child's only way to feel safe. However, it's not just one single event that shapes us, it's the overall experience of childhood relationships. The sum total of these early interactions create a character structure which is a fundamental pattern on how we relate to the world. While later experiences can be important, especially for people developing normally, our early childhood experiences are the foundation upon which our personality is built. Adults who repeat unhealthy patterns aren't simply reliving childhood, but they're interpreting new situations through the lens of that established character structure. Our early experiences create a framework for how we see ourselves and the world, and this framework influences how we respond to everything that happens to us later in life. So, for Karen Horney's series on basic hostility and basic anxiety, she described how early childhood experiences can shape personality and mental health. She believed that the early child begins with a potential for healthy development, and this potential requires the right conditions, a warm, loving, yet appropriately structured environment. A child needs both genuine love and healthy discipline to feel safe and secure. But what happens when these ideal conditions aren't met? If parents are unable or unwilling to provide a nurturing environment, perhaps due to their own issues or limitations, the child may develop basic hostility. This isn't necessarily outward rage, but a deep-seated resentment and anger, often unconscious, directed towards the parents who failed to meet their needs. These repressed anger doesn't disappear. It creates a pervasive feeling of insecurity and apprehension, which is a basic anxiety. So basic anxiety isn't simply a fear of a specific event. It's a constant underlying sense of being alone, vulnerable, and unsafe in a world perceived as potentially hostile. It's a feeling of being small, insignificant, and threatened. Basic hostility and basic anxiety are intertwined. One can fuel the other. Repressed hostility can manifest as anxiety, while the constant threat or of anxiety can, in turn, breed more hostility. This creates a vicious cycle that intensifies negative feelings and can contribute to the development of neurosis. Basic anxiety itself isn't a neurosis, but it's the foundation upon which one might develop. It's a constant pervasive feeling impacting all the relationships. So to cope up with this anxiety, individuals developed what Horney termed neurotic needs, coping mechanisms that become problematic when they are rigid and compulsive, preventing flexible responses and relationships. These needs might manifest as a desperate need for affection, a tendency towards submissiveness, a drive for power or prestige, a need to possess things, or withdrawal from others. So these are all attempts to manage the underlying anxiety and insecurity. While everyone uses these coping mechanisms to some degree, they become unhealthy when they are inflexible and prevent the individual from engaging in a wider range of healthy interpersonal strategies.
Good day everyone, I am Princess Rahaina Uto and I will be discussing the continuation of Ms. Ruela Tagal's report. Compulsive drives, whereas normal individuals are able to use a variety of defensive maneuvers in a somewhat useful way. Neurotics compulsively repeat the same strategy in an essentially unproductive manner. This defensive strategy traps them in a vicious circle in which their compulsive needs to reduce basic anxiety lead to behaviors that perpetuate low self-esteem, generalized hostility, inappropriate starving for power, inflated feelings of superiority, and persistent apprehension, allow all of which result in more basic anxiety. Compulsive drives. So, ang mga normal na tao, ang tendency nila is they can use variety of defensive mechanism. No, variety of defensive measures depending on the cases. Of course, people can always seek affection, but of course, kailangan sa tamang tao. People must be submissive, but also, of course, sa tamang tao, tamang lugar, tamang context. Siyempre, kailangan maging submissive sa mga employers mo kasi kung hindi ka magiging submissive sa mga employers mo, wala kang kikitain. But of course, may limitation yan. So, siyempre, kailangan mo rin mag-gain ng power, prestige so that umangat ka sa social status mo. And eventually, minsan, talagang may time na sa sobrang ano na lang ay talagang kailangan mo nang umalis. Pero, ang mga neurotic daw, they have this compulsion to use only one. It's either iwan lahat, it's either kalabanin lahat, or it's either mahalin lahat. So, we have neurotic, kumbaga, neurotic have neurotic needs that are attempts. Kumbaga, ito yung mga nabubuong needs because of basic anxiety. Of course, not every neurotic has all of these stand, but most of them have most of these. So, need for affection, need for a powerful partner, need to restrict one's life within narrow borders, yung mga parang like withdrawal na to, need for power, need for exploit others, need for social recognition or prestige, neurotic need for personal admiration, neurotic need for ambition and personal achievement, self-sufficiency and independence, and perfection and unassailability. I don't need to explain this one by one kasi you can give the definition yourself naman. So, neurotics have these needs and actually you can group them para dun sa affection, submissiveness, power, and withdrawal. So, mamaya may ipapakita kong table. So, you can also group them to neurotic trends. So, itong neurotic trends, ito na yung parang mga bagong version ni Horney kasi nga, yung unang version niya is affection, submissiveness, power, prestige, and yung withdrawal. Tapos, in-expand niya, ginawa niyang 10. Tapos, kinontract niya naman, ginawa niyang 3. So, the first neurotic trend is moving towards people. So, dahil yung iba, due to basic anxiety, they feel helpless. They cannot stand against other people, and so yung conclusion nila is kailangan nila maging compliant sa ibang tao. So, they desperately strive for affection and approval of others or seek a powerful partner who will take responsibility for their lives. So, there are times that neurotics really do have a need to have someone to take care of them. This is very toxic in a way, and there are times that two toxic people or two moving forwards people will meet each other and will meet each other's need, which is another kind of toxic. That is, in a modern term, ang tawag doon is codependent partners. So, yung mga neurotic needs ng bawat isa is sinasatisfy nila. Medyo delikado din yun kasi hindi nila ma-recognize na meron silang codependency. Iba kasi ang codependency sa parang pagkakaroon ng symbiotic relationships. Kasi ang symbiotic relationship, yung magandang kind ng relationship. Like, may give and take. So, sa codependence is parang finifeed nyo yung neurotic needs ng bawat isa. So, lalong lumalakas and like pag nag-break kayo or nagkaroon ng problem, doon na nagkakaroon ng like something wrong. Kasi sa relationship, kahit magandang relationship, may problems yan. Pero kung dalawang neurotic ang nagkaroon ng problem sa relationship, mas lalong lalala or like sasabog. Yun yung mga explosive na tinatawag. So, moving towards people. So, because they need the affection nga, they concluded that to help battle anxiety, they will have to be compliant to other people. So again, another method of fighting your enemy is literally fighting your enemy. So some people concluded that they need to be aggressive to other people. Like they have this kind of, if people aggressive to me, then I will become aggressive to kind of mindset. Like parang unahan lang yan. So rather than moving towards people, these people move against others by appearing low or ruthless. Yung talagang mga matatapang na tao. Like, they are motivated by strong need to exploit others and be use them for their own benefit. They sold them, admit their mistakes, and compulsively drive them to a peer perfect. So, Karens, of course, not Horney, Karens in the internet, they are the best example of moving against people. They are entitled, they think they know everything, they think they are right, they think they are doing world a favor when they throw tantrums. So, for instance, sa Philippines, meron din yung mga matatanda sa fast food chain na akala mo naman nasa magandang restaurant. Kung makapag-demand, akala mo like sila yung president, ganon. Tapos yung mga nag-aaway ng cashier or mga sales lady, those people have moving against people threat. Meron silang strong need to exploit others. Like, minsan di naman kailangan eh. Minsan kailangan mo lang sabihin, mali yung binigay mo, mali yung order. Like, pwede naman ganun. Kaya lang, yung iba, sasabihin pa, hoy, mali yung order ko, mali yung binigay mo. Like, hahanapin pa like, nasan yung manager mo? Ganto ganyan. So, of course, may mga times na kailangan mong gawin yan, pero hindi naman yung nagkamali lang eh. Pwede naman palitan, di ba? Syempre, pag ganun, kasalanan ng cashier. So, siya yung magbabayad doon. Pero, hindi mo naman kailangan pagalitan. Pero yun nga, there's a neurotic need to exploit others. And then lastly, of course, yung moving away from people. Talagang walk away na lang. Ayaw na nilang makihalubilo. Usually, this is the most effective. Or like, hindi naman most effective, but this is one of the, I think, for me, parang ito yung pinaka-effective sa mga neurotic trends. Of course, ibig sabihin, dapat kailangan mong gamitin lahat. Pero ito yung pinaka-effective kasi iiwan mo na lang lahat. Yun nga lang, pag sobra, pag lagi mo na lang iniiwan lahat, may tendency na wala ka ng kasama. So, wala kang companion. Pag wala kang companion, malungkot. So, syempre, depende pa rin sa case nung problem. But, yung mga moving away from people who are just, they realize that people are toxic, it's hard to deal with people. And that's true. There are some people that really leave their home country, leave their hometown because they hated it. They hated mga, like, for instance, puro demands yung mga magulang or yung mga nasa compound nila. Tapos yung parang binibigay lahat ng responsibility sa kanila. Although hindi ko alam kung hanggang ngayon meron pa ding ganon, pero yung mga sinaunang panahon, kunwari, mga panganay, sila minsan yung nagiging second na magulang. Tapos yung mga like other parents like chill-chill lang. Tapos yung mga mag-aral kayo ng mabuti para magkaroon kayo ng magandang trabaho. Tapos ibibigay nyo sa amin yung sweldo nyo. Yung mga ganon. Hindi ko naman sinasabing like mali yung ganon. Sinasabi ko lang na like it's wrong to demand. Kung bibigyan ka, bibigyan ka. Kasi lalo na sa panahon ngayon, like ang hirap ng buhay. So, siguro nung dati pwede yan, pero ngayon is like mahirap na. Ang daming bayarin sa like sa buhay. Kahit nga single ka or like mag-isa ka lang, parang minsan broke ka pa din. Paano pa kaya kung like yung mga may bubuhayin kang iba, 'di ba? So, ayun. Some people when they realize that that is a big problem, they will just leave. They will move away from people. So, this is the summary nung neurotic trend ni Horney. So, ano yan? Yung mga groupings. So, it's basically the same lang kasi nag-e-evolve yung mga theory ni Horney as she grows old. Like, ina-update niya unlike kay Freud. So, ayun. As we use our neurotic trends often, ang nangyayari is nagkakaroon ng interpsychic conflicts. Kasi when you have neurotic trends, ang tendency is you will be too focused on the outside. So, when you are too focused on the outside, you have this tendency to disconnected with your own self, no? Nagkakaroon ka ng disconnect. So, hindi mo na kilala talaga kung sino yung totoong ikaw. And dahil hindi mo nakikilala kung sino yung totoong ikaw, ang tendency is magagawa ka ng perfect version ng sarili mo para ma-meet mo yung demands ng external world. Kasi nga, everyone is your enemy. So, you need to become powerful. You need to have your an ideal self-image. You need to be perfect. So, this is an attempt to solve conflicts by painting a godlike picture of oneself. So, godlike yung, yun yung ginamit na term ni Horney. So, feeling alienated from themselves, people need desperately to acquire a stable sense of identity. Dahil nga masyado na silang malayo, kailangan na nilang gumawa. And dahil neurotic sila, they tend to be over the top. Talagang exage lahat. So, ang tendency, gumagawa sila ng exaggerated version nila. So, in idealized self-image. So, this idealized self-image have three aspects. So, neurotic glorify and worship themselves in different ways. For instance, compliant people, they see themselves as God or saint. Aggressive people, they see themselves as the savior of the world, no? Yung mga Karens, ganon, feeling nila they're doing people a favor when they are doing tantrums. Detached neurotic paint themselves as a wise, self-sufficient, and independent. So rather than growing towards self-realization, they more towards actualizing their idealized self. So, imbis na mag-regress sila papunta sa sarili nila, as Jung said, parang paprogress sila, imbis na regress. So, ang tendency is hindi na nila kilala yung sarili nila. And dahil hindi nila kilala ang sarili nila, let me discuss the aspects of idealized self-image. First is the neurotic search for glory. So, they believe in a reality of their idealized self. They begin to incorporate all aspects into their lives, their goals, their self-concept, and their relationship with others. So they have the need for perfection. So, like, I need to do this, I need to become like this, or I should be like that. So they have this need for perfection. Like, for instance, yung mga lumaki sa family na hindi sila pinapansin, parang neglected sila and all. And then, na-realize nila, kailangan nilang maging perfect so that people will recognize them. So, ang tendency is, they feel they will paint an idealized version of themselves. So, for instance, yung mga like, another example is yung ibang students na parang like, they demand for a perfect grade. They demand for a not so good, or like they demand for unrealistic grades. Like, their performance is good naman, but they demand for a kunwari, binigyan mo ng 85 na grade. So, gusto nila ng mga nasa 96 or 97, ganon. They need to prove something to other people. So, they need to become perfect. And that is the Terrari of should. And if hindi nila makuha yung talagang like sasabog sila, and that need for perfection is the outgrow of ambition. They want to be superior. This is same with the personal superiority of Adler. And the other one naman is, this is the very aggressive kind of self-image, is yung drive towards vindicative triumph. So it's not enough to just win. Neurotics needs to drive, point, and humiliate their enemy to the ground, aka Karens na naman. So parang like, babangon ako at dudurugin kita. Hindi enough na manalo sila, hindi enough na matalo yung kalaban. Kailangan mapahiya yung kalaban. Parang war crimes lang, kumbaga, like psychologically way. May mga ganyang tao, like sobrang bitter nila sa mundo, ganyan. Like mga ganyan yung gusto nilang mangyari. So, another aspects of idealized self-image is neurotic claims. They have this parang delusion. They build a fantasy world that is out of sync in the real world. Kunwari, yung mga Karens nga, they feel like they're superiors. They feel like they're the truth. Another one is the students who demand unrealistic grade because in their world, in their claim, they are perfect. So, they need to have a perfect score. Yung mga ganon. And then, neurotic pride. So, a false pride based on realistic view of true self. For instance, yung mga Karens nga, they have neurotic pride. Yung parang proud sila na ganun sila, pero ayaw nilang tinatawag sila ng Karen. Pero yun nga, they have this pride na ayaw mag-social justice warrior. Kaya naman yung iba, kunwari, ay mga blind people, I'm a saint. Mga moving away from people, I'm independent, no? Yun yung mga neurotic pride nila. Nagte-take pride sila sa ganon. So, ayun. But of course, yung idealized self-image na yan, it's just an ideal. It's not something that will be achieved talaga because it's something that is unachievable. And at some point in their lives, neurotics will realize that imbes na tatanggapin nila na nobody's perfect, ang gagawin nila is like, hindi ka perfect. Kasalanan mo kung bakit hindi ka perfect. Like, mga ganun yung mindset nila sa sarili nila. Like, kasalanan ko kung bakit hindi ako perfect. Mga ganun. So, magkakaroon ng self-hatred. Yung aayawin nila yung mga sarili nila. And this self-hatred is not just hatred na I don't like myself. It's really deep down talaga. Since talagang neurotic siya, talagang may self-loathing, kumbaga. And there are 6 major ways of expressing this. First is the relentless demands, tyranny of the should. Second is self-accusation, impostor syndrome. Yung parang meron kang ginagawang matino, tapos if only people know na baka lang nagpapanggap lang ako, na magaling ako, yung ganyan-ganyan. So, self-accusation yung tawag doon. Self-contempt naman, yung for instance, yung talagang, anong akala mo, multi-NAEC yung entrance exam sa magandang school na yon? Anong akala mo na matalino ka na? Bobo ka lang eh. Yung ganon, yung mga ganon, self-contempt yun. Like, kinakausap niya yung sarili niya. So, that is parang torture, kumbaga. Then, next is self-frustration naman. Distinguish between healthy self-discipline. So, yung healthy self-discipline, for instance, is hindi ka muna bibili ng something ngayon kasi may binili ka na for yourself. So, that's a self-discipline. Pero yung kunwari, sasabihin mo or like, meron ka namang pera, madami ka namang resources, tapos ayaw mong bumili ng something na kailangan mo or nang magpapasaya sa'yo kasi sasabihin mo sa sarili mo na, di ko deserve to dahil masama akong tao, wala akong kwentang tao. Yun, ang self-frustration ang tawag doon. So, next is self-torment or self-torture. Masochistic satisfaction by anguishing decision or exaggerating a pain, cutting themselves with a knife, starting fights that they are sure to be lost, or inviting physical abuse. Yung parang dahil hate na hate nila yung sarili nila, parang inaalaw nila yung iba na i-torture sila or i-torment sila. And then of course, the most destructive, dangerous is yung self-destructive action or and impulses. Can be physical or psychological. If physical, overeating, abusing alcohol, abusing drugs, working too hard, or even suicide are common expressions of physical self-destruction. And it can also be psychological. For instance, may partner ka na like going well naman, pero dahil may self-hatred ka, isa-sabotage mo yung sarili mo. Iiwan mo para sa isang neurotic na tao. So, in engaging in promiscuous sexual activities, self-hatred yung mga yan. So, yun yung kumbaga downfall ng isang neurotic na tao. Medyo sad, pero ano siya tuloy-tuloy, parang feedback loop kasi siya. The more na nagkakaroon ka ng basic hostility, the more na nagbe-basic anxiety ka. The more na gagamit ka ng isang neurotic trend, the more na nagkaka-idealize self-image ka. And you will surely fail and then end up in being self-hatred. And dahil hate mo yung sarili mo, feeling mo like hostile na nga yung mundo, hostile ka pa sa sarili mo. Magkakaroon ka na ng basic hostility. And then, basic anxiety, and so on and so forth. Hanggang sa mag-break na lang yung tao, especially if hindi naagapan, and all of that because of your or because of how your parents treated their child, di ba? So, kasalanan nga ng mga parents. Kaya, kung magpa-parent kayo, ayusin nyo. So, for Horney, this is feminine psychology. Known din si Horney kasi sa a-advance ng feminine psychology. Although di niya natapos kasi later in life na lang nagawa ito. So, first of all kasi, like si Freud is very paternalistic, no? Parang alam nyo naman si Freud na wala siyang idea sa feminine psychology. So, the psychic difference between men and women are not result of anatomy but a cultural and social expectation. So, dito nga nyo makikita na yung parang feminist movement. So, parang yung sinasabi na hindi naman really about sa anatomy biology ng male sa female, kung bakit may disparity sa psychic sa psychic differences nila. It's all about culture and social expectations. So, parang sinusunod niya dito si Adler na parang sinasabi niya na talagang nadi-discriminate yung mga women. Kaya, nagkakaroon sila ng ibang manifestation of psychological process and behaviors. So, although Horney insisted that basic anxiety is at the core of men's need to sabotage women, and women wish to humiliate men. So, basic anxiety daw yung source kung bakit yung mga male is very dominating sa mga women, and yung women's wish to humiliate men. So, although Horney recognized the existence of Oedipus complex, she insisted that it was due to certain environmental conditions, not biology. And she's somehow true naman, because it really is a social and gender, no? Especially like gender is a social construct. So it has ties on social and cultural norms talaga. So because there are some societies that are paternal and there are some that are matriarchal. So depende talaga. Boys sometimes do express a desire to have a baby, but this desire is not the result of universal male or womb envy. So, kung sabi ni Freud, may mali ata yung wording, pero ang sabi ni Freud is may penis envy daw yung mga babae. Sabi naman ni Horney, then may womb envy kayo. Like, no, you like reverse Uno card, ganon. So, ayan, agree siya kay Adler. And the desire, however, is not an expression of Penny's envy, but rather a wish for all those qualities or privileges which in our culture are regarded as masculine. So, it's not about the penis talaga. It's all about the privileges that comes across with that penis. So, maraming privileges talaga ang mga lalaki. Like, until now. So, yun. I cannot really say something about it. The standard of masculinity and femininity are artificial standards, to which I agree. So, psychotherapy. This is the last one. Ang main goal ng psychotherapy in Horney is all about giving up the idealized self-image and relinquish the neurotic search for glory. And then, yung self-hatred is baguhin into an acceptance of the real self. So, parang ang ano mo dyan is tatanggalan mo na yung idealized self. Kasi, yun yung parang nagbe-bring ng so much self-hatred. And so much self-hatred, as I mentioned, na it can lead more to basic hostility. Ayaw mo na nga yung mundo, ayaw mo pa yung sarili mo, di ba? So, i-break mo na yon. Yung idealized self-image, and then eventually ipaparealize nung therapist na yung neurotic trends nga is nagpapalala pa nung mga neurosis niya. So, i-allow nung therapist na imbestigahan ng client yung sarili niya, like self-understanding, para ma-realize nga na may mali or like mali yung mga processes na ginagawa niya. So, according kay Horney, self-understanding must go beyond information. Kasi usually, yung mga neurotics naman, they know cognitively na mali nga yung ginagawa nila. But in gut feeling or in a more emotional and affectional perspective, they cannot help it. Iba kasi yung cognition, iba rin ang emotion. Minsan, alam mo yung fact, pero hindi mo tanggap. Or like, hindi tanggap ng buong katauhan mo yung fact na yon. So, patient must understand their pride system, their idealized self-image, search for glory, self-hatred, their shoulds and alliances from themselves, and their conflicts. And they must have an emotional experience with it. Parang may catalyst na lalabas. Minsan, hindi mo kailangan intindihin eh. Minsan, kailangan mo lang iiyak. Minsan, kailangan mo lang tanggapin. Or minsan, wala kang kailangan sabihin. I-feel mo lang. And that's something that is very hard to do. Dream analysis can help. Free association can help the patient's idealized self-image, and when therapy is successful, patients gradually develop confidence in their ability to assume responsibility for their psychological development. So, pag naging successful, syempre, di naman mawawala yung basic hostility and basic anxiety, but at least yung self-hatred, yung idealized self-image is mababawasan. So, ngayon, kalaban niya na lang yung external world. So, pag ganyan, of course, you can use different neurotic trends na so that you can solve the basic conflicts that is brought by the basic anxiety. So, magiging responsible na yung client sa kanyang sarili. So, it's all about breaking the cycle. So, break the idealized self-image and then turuan mo yung client mo papaano yung mga ibang defenses or mga ways para ma-defend yung sarili nila against the basic anxiety. So that's how psychotherapy parang medyo same siya with Adler, parang ipaparealize sa client na masyado ka nang disconnected sa society and sa sarili mo. So, kailangan mong i-develop ulit yun. And bibigyan ng psychoeducation na ganun, like medyo same sila ni Adler.
Good day everyone, I am Aldin Pangandayan. So I will be discussing to you about Karen Horney's psychoanalytic social theory. So Karen Horney's psychoanalytic social theory, while not directly inspiring much modern research, remains relevant through her insights into neurotic trends. Her work provides a framework for understanding both normal and disordered personality, emphasizing the impact of social and cultural influences. So, itong si Karen Orni's psychoanalytic social theory is nagbibigay diin siya sa impluensya ng lipunan and sa ating culture sa pagbuo ng ating personalidad. So ayon sa kanya, ang mga neurotic trends or yung mga pag-uugali na hindi normal ay hindi lamang dulot ng unconscious desires and hindi malalamang mga hangarin tulad ng sinabi ni Freud na kundi pati na rin sa mga panlabas na kadahilanan tulad ng ating culture, lipunan, and yung ating relationships. So, ang kanyang teorya ay nagbibigay ng framework para sa understanding ng mga normal and hindi normal na personalities. And nagpapakita rin ito kung paano ang mga tao ay naapektuhan ang kanilang kapaligiran. So the next slide is measuring neurotic runs or the HCTI. So Horney's College Tridimensional Inventory HCTI. Itong si Frederick College and colleagues developed the HCTI to measure Horney's three neurotic runs. So compliance or toward, aggression against, and detachment away. So the first facet is the compliance or yung pagtanggap at pagsunod sa iba. So, ang compliance scale ay binubuo ng tatlong facets, no? Ito yung altruism or yung pagmamalasakit at pagtulong sa iba nang walang inahasahang kapalit. And then the second one is the need for relationships. Ito yung pangangailangan ng malakas na connection at relasyon sa iba. Then the last one is the self-abasement or yung pagpapababa ng sarili or yung binababaan natin yung pride natin and pagtanggap ng pagkakamali upang mapanatili ang relationship. So, ang mga taong may mataas na compliance scale ay sila yung may malakas na hangarin na makatulong sa iba and makapagbuo ng malakas na relationship to others. Okay, the next one is the facets of aggression. Malevolence, power, and strength comprise the aggression scale, indicating a malevolent view of others and a desire for control. And then this last one is the facets of detachment, need for aloneness, avoidance, and self-sufficiency characterize the detachment scale, reflecting a preference for independence. So, etong si facets of aggression, ito yung paglaban and pag-atake sa iba. And then si detachment naman is ito yung paghiwalay at pag-alis sa iba. And then itong si aggression is ito yung against, and then si detachment is yung away. So, ang HCTI is ginagamit sila para sa pag-ugnawa at pag-diagnose ng mga neurotic trends and mga problems sa ating personality. So, the next one is the horny trends and personality disorders. So, we have here the cluster A disorder. So, negatively correlated with compliance, indicating a lack of sympathetic and altruistic behaviors and a low need for relationships. So, ang cluster A disorders na ito ay isang grupo ng mga personality disorder na characteristics ng like kakulangan ng sympathetic or altruistic behaviors. Ito yung hindi makapagbigay ng tulong or support sa iba. And then, meron din itong mababang pangangailangan ng relationship sa iba. And sila yung pag nagiging isolated or hindi makasama or hindi nakikisama. So, ang mga taong may cluster A disorders ay hindi nagpapakita ng mga pag-uugaling nakikita sa compliance scale tulad ng altruism and yung need for relationships. We have the cluster C disorders, positively correlated with compliance, suggesting anxious and fearful tendencies aligned with moving toward people. So, ang cluster C disorders ay isa ring grupo ng personality disorders na characteristics nito is yung mga pag-uugaling nagpapakita ng pag-aalala or takot. And then, meron din silang tendency na lumapit sa mga tao like upang makahanap sila ng security or suporta. Ang mga taong may cluster C disorder, sila ay may mataas na compliance scale na nagpapakita ng kanilang hangarin or makapagbuo ng mga relationships sa seguridad sa pamamagitan ng pagiging malapit sa iba. So, very approachable sila. And then, the next one is the cluster B disorders. Aggression is the strongest predictor, indicating erratic behavior and hurtful intent toward others and themselves. So, etong uh, si cluster B disorders, sila yung may mga pag-uugaling erratic at hindi mapalagay. Sila yung madali lang ma-irritate, and then meron ding tendency na nagdudulot ito ng painful or pinsala sa iba and of course sa kanyang sarili. So sila yung very aggressive and palaban sa iba. So ang aggression scale ng cluster B ay ito yung tinatawag nila na pinakamalas na predictor ng cluster B disorders dahil nga nagpapakita ito ng malakas na ugnayan sa pagitan ng aggression and mga behaviors na characteristics ng cluster B disorders. So the next slide is the early manifestation of neurotic trends. We have here the child and adolescent HCTI. So si Coolidge et al. 2011, he established the psychometric properties of a child and adolescent version of the HCTI. So ang child and adolescent HCTI is isang version ni Horny Coolidge ng tridimensional inventory or yung HCTI na dinisenyo niya para sa mga bata and sa mga adults. So ayon kay Coolidge, ito ay nagpapakita ng mga neurotic trends tulad ng compliance, aggression, and yung detachment. Sa merong mga item na they were designed para sa mga bata and adolescents. Sa meron ding psychometric properties na nagpapatunay sa kanilang reliabilidad and validity. So, ang child and adolescent HCTI is ginagamit ito para sa pag-ugnawa at pag-diagnose ng mga neurotic trends and yung mga problema sa personalidad ng mga bata and adolescents. Next is we have the cultural and familial influence. Horney's contention that cultural, familial, and childhood experiences shape the three trends was tested and supported. So, ayon kay Karen Horney, ang mga karanasan sa kultura, pamilya, and pagkabata is meron itong malaking influence sa pagbuo ng tatlong neurotic trends, yung compliance, aggression, and detachment. So, ang mga pag-aaral na ng cultural and familial influence is nagpapatunay ito na ang mga karanasan sa kultura, pamilya, and pagkabata ay may malaking impluensya sa pagbuo ng mga neurotic trends. Dahil nga, sabi nga sa research is meron silang binubuo ito ng mga karanasan na meron sila karanasan sa kultura, like ang mga kultura nila ay may mataas na antas ng competition and aggression ay may posibilidad na magbuo ng mga neurotic trends tulad ng aggression. Meron din silang experiences sa family, ang pamilya na may mga problema sa relasyon and communication is may possible na magbuo ng mga neurotic trends tulad ng detachment. And then, syempre sa experience sa pagkabata, meron silang, maaari silang makaranas ng mga trauma or yung abuse or yung pagpapabaya sa pagkabata, and may posibilidad din to na makabuo ng neurotic trends like tulad nung compliance. Then the next one is the reliability and validity. Sufficient internal and test, retest, reliability as well as constructed validity emerge in children ages 5 to 17. So, ang reliability at validity ay may mga konsepto or na pag-aaral sa physiological na nagpapatunay sa katumpakan or the exact na pag-aaral ng pagiging mapagkakatu mapagkakatiwalaan, like meron itong sufficient internal reliability, like ang mga items sa tests for example ay meron silang magagandang relationships, unity, and nagpapakita ito ng isang concept. So mayroong sufficient test, retest reliability, which is ang mga resulta ng test ay nagpapakita ng mga pagiging mapagkakatiwalaan na sa pagitan ng pagsusulit nung or yung pag-uulit ng test. Then meron din tayong tinatawag na construct validity, which is yung test ay nagpapakita ng pagiging mapagkatiwalaan sa pag-aaral ng mga neurotic trends sa mga bata at adolescents, which is na nag-age ng 5 to 17 years old. So, yung mga results na yon is nagpapatunay siya na ang child, adolescent, and adolescent HCTI is isang reliable and parang mabisang tool sa pag-aaral ng mga neurotic trends para sa mga bata and adolescents. Okay, the next slide is the successful neurotic detecting threats. We have here three. The first one is the Robinson et al. 2007. He investigated conditions under which neuroticism might have benefits, specifically in detecting threats. So ayon sa pag-aaral ni Robinson 2007, ang neuroticism or yung mga pag-uugaling neurotiko ay maaaring magkaroon ng mga benefits sa mga ilang situations. No? Or yung mga particular na pagkakakita ng mga banta or yung problems. So, ang mga taong may mataas na level ng neuroticism is maaaring mas magaling sa pagkakakita ng mga banta or yung na-feel nila yung mga problems sa paligid nila. Siguro sa kadahilan ng yun na nga, mataas yung kanilang level ng pagiging mapagmasid, mas mataas yung antas ng pagiging mapag-alala nila, and mataas din yung level ng pagiging mapag-isip nila. So, sa ganitong mga sitwasyon, ang neuroticism ay maaaring magkaroon ng mga benefits sa pagpapabuti and pagpapakita ng mga banta and yung pag-iwas sa mga problema. So the second one is the threat recognition. This is the ability to accurately recognize threats in the environment. Was related to decreased negative mood for those high in neuroticism. So, at nung si threat recognition is, ito yung mga taong may mataas ng level of neuroticism and may kinalaman sa pagpapakita ng mga problems sa kapaligiran or yung mga banta. So, ang mga pagkakita sa mga banta nito or yung problems is meron itong kinalaman sa pagbawas ng negative moods or negative emotions sa mga taong may mataas na neuroticism, and sila rin yung nakapag-iwas sa mga problem or banta, and nakakapagpabuti rin sila ng pagiging mapagmasid nila sa kanilang kapaligiran. And ayun na nga, sa ibang salita, ang mga taong may mataas na neuroticism ay mas magaling sila sa pagpapakita or yung pagkakakita ng mga problems sa kanilang kapaligiran, and ito rin ay maaaring magdulot ng pagbawas ng kanilang negative emotions or negative moods, like para mapagaan yung kanilang sarili while sila ay nasa labas. Then the next one is the adaptive response, reacting adaptively to errors, slowing down and thinking carefully while assessing threat was related to experiencing less negative mood. So ang adaptive response ay ang pagtugon sa mga mistakes or yung mga problem sa isang paraan na nakapagpabuti ito ng situations. So, sa context ng threat recognition, ang adaptive response ay pag-iisip ng mabuti sa harap ng mga pagkakamali or banta and nakapag-assess ng banta sa isang paraan na nakapagpapabuti ng pag-ugnawa at pagtugon. So, ang mga taong may adaptive response ay sila yung may kinalaman sa pagkakaroon ng mas kaunting negative emotion or negative mood. Sila rin yung nakapag-iwas sa problems or banta and nakakapagpabuti din sila ng pagmamasid nila and yung pag-aalala na. So, sa ibang salita, ang pagtugon sa mga mistakes or problems sa isang paraan na nagpapabuti sa situation is maaari siyang magdulot ng pagbawas ng negative emotions. So, the next one is the critic of Horny's theory. So we have here three. Number one is the lucid portrayal of the neurotic personality, providing an excellent framework for understanding unhealthy people. So, ang lucid portrayal ng neurotic personality is tumutukoy ito sa isang malinaw and detailed na paglalarawan ng mga taong may neurotic personality. So, ito ay nagbibigay ng isang maganda na framework para sa pag-ugnawa ng mga taong may unhealthy na pag-uugali. So, tulad ng mga pag-uugaling neurotics, tulad ng pagiging mapag-alala, pagiging mapag-isip, and pagiging mapagmasid. Like, sa mga kadahilanan na ang mga pag-uugaling ito, tulad ng mga karanasan sa pagkabata, mga relationships, and mga pangyayari sa buhay. So, ang epekto ng mga pag-uugali ito sa mga relationships, trabaho, at pangkalahat ng kalusugan. So, sa pamamagitan ng pag-unawa sa mga taong may neurotic personality is mas madali para sa kanila na mga hindi, parang naging mas madali para sa mga professional sa kalusugan ng kaisipan na makapagbigay ng mga intervention at suporta upang matulungan nilang magkaroon sila ng healthy minds and healthy body sa relationships nila towards their friends and families. Next is we have here the limitations. Nearly exclusive concern with neurotics with general and not well explicated references to the normal or healthy personality. So, ang studies na nakakaantok para sa mga taong may neurotic personality is meron itong malaking pagdoon sa mga behaviors ng behaviors ng neurotics and mga problems sa kalusugan ng ating isip. So, ang pag-aaral ay ayon sa limitations, ang pag-aaral ay may limitadong pagtuon sa mga taong may normal or malusog na personalidad na may mga sanggunian na hindi masyadong malinaw or hindi masyado siya detailed. So, ito rin ay nagpapakita ng ang studies or yung pag-aaral natin, pag-study natin is nakatutok lang tayo sa pag-ugnawa sa mga problems sa kalusugan ng ating isip kaysa sa pag-ugnawa sa mga katangian ng mga taong may malusog na personality. The last one is the falsifiability. So speculations from the theory do not easily yield testable hypothesis and therefore lack both verifiability and falsifiability. So yung mga speculations from this theory sa theory ni Horney is hindi siya madaling maging testable na hypothesis. So kaya hindi ito masyado nagpapakita ng verifiability or yung kapag sa pagiging totoo ay na hindi masyado ito napapatunayan, and sa falsifiability or yung hindi masyadong kapag hindi pagiging mali ay hindi masyado napapatunayan. So ito ay nangangahulugan na yung idea ni Horney is hindi siya madaling subukan or patunayan sa pamamagitan ng mga ah, scientific studies, kaya hindi ito masyado nagpapakita ng mga katibayan na kailangan natin para sa isang theory ng hindi, para sa isang scientific theories. We have here the last one. The last slide is the Horney's concept of humanity. So, ayon kay Karen Horney, Horney's concept of humanity is based on clinical experiences with neurotic patients. The prime differences between a healthy person and neurotic individual is the degree of compulsivity with which each moves toward, against, or away from people. So, ayon nga kay Horney, ang concept niya sa pagkatao ng tao is nakabase siya sa kanyang mga experiences sa clinics, kasama na doon yung mga pasyente niya na may neurosis. So, ang pangunahing pagkakaiba sa pagitan ng isang healthy na tao at sa taong may neurosis is yung kanilang antas ng compulsivity or yung pagsunod sa gawi or pag-uugali. Like sa paggalaw patungo, laban, or palayo sa mga tao. So, nangangahulugan ito na yung mga taong may neurosis is ay meron silang may mas mataas na antas ng compulsivity sa kanilang pag-uugali, samantala naman yung mga tao na may malusog na pangangatawan, healthy body, or healthy minds is sila yung may mas malayong meron silang freedom sa pagkilos and sa decision making sa kanilang mga relationships sa iba. So that's it for my report. Thank you very much.